Imagine a crisp autumn morning in Stuttgart, circa 2005. The air, cool and invigorating, carries the faint scent of roasted coffee mingling with the distant, rhythmic hum of precision machinery from the industrial heartlands. You see Anna Müller, then in her early 30s, a sharp, confident engineer, stepping out of her sleek, German-engineered sedan. She walks with purpose towards the gleaming, glass-fronted offices of her automotive supplier, a building that itself stands as a monument to meticulous design and economic strength. Every detail in this landscape, from the immaculately paved streets to the thriving, tree-lined boulevards, speaks of order, prosperity, and a future meticulously planned. This was a Europe brimming with quiet confidence, a continent where the powerful gears of progress turned with a predictable, almost serene rhythm. It was a place where hard work was met with tangible reward, where innovation flowed freely, and where the promise of a stable, prosperous life felt like an immutable guarantee for every citizen. This bedrock of shared peace and wealth, painstakingly constructed from the ashes of devastating conflicts, appeared utterly unshakable, a permanent fixture in the global order, setting the stage for generations of advancement. Tell us in the comments, where in the world are you watching this from? Join the global conversation. For decades, this intricate European system, forged through monumental effort, delivered unprecedented peace and economic growth. The single market thrived, the euro unified, and a collective illusion took root that careful consensus and gradual integration would perpetually overcome any challenge. Europe was a beacon of stability, a global economic powerhouse, a testament to the belief that compromise, though slow, would always yield optimal outcomes. This meant fundamental structural reform seemed not just unnecessary, but dangerous, threatening the delicate balance achieved. It was a world where certainty was the most valuable currency, and the future felt like a well-drawn blueprint, destined to unfold as planned. This was the widely accepted truth, a serene landscape of predictable progress. This is not fiction. It's consequence. You are about to uncover a profound truth that few dare to articulate. The European Union's persistent inability to implement necessary deep structural reforms isn't a failure of individual will or a lack of awareness. Instead, it is the inevitable, predetermined outcome of its very foundational design. This system, meticulously crafted for stability, balance, and consensus, now actively resists the speed and disruptive change essential for its survival in a rapidly evolving, fiercely competitive, and increasingly volatile world. We will reveal how the consequences you observe today are not accidental misfortunes, but rather the logical, inescapable results of an architecture that prioritizes avoiding rupture over embracing the rapid adaptation that is now paramount. Prepare to see the continent's challenges from an entirely new, structural perspective. If you want to understand the world's most complex issues in ways no one else explains, subscribe now and hit the notification bell. To truly grasp this, you must first understand the system as it was envisioned, before its hidden limitations were exposed. After the devastation of World War II, a monumental European project began, driven by the vision of an ever closer union. This ambition culminated in the European Union itself, an intricate political and economic framework. Its design was revolutionary. Integrate diverse nations through shared rules, negotiated compromises, and institutional caution. Anchored by the single market, and later the euro, This framework appeared stable and inevitable for decades. It delivered unprecedented peace, robust economic growth, and democratic consolidation across the continent, lifting millions into prosperity. This wasn't just abstract policy. It meant new opportunities for businesses, safer borders for families, and a collective sense of security that had been absent for generations. This carefully constructed system, designed to prevent future conflicts, fostered a powerful sense of shared destiny. For people like Anna Mueller, growing up in this environment, the implicit promise was clear: work hard, specialize, innovate, and the system would provide. It was a world where your effort was rewarded, where your skills had value across borders, and where a predictable path to a better future was laid out. Anna, a German engineer, exemplifies this promise. She dedicated herself to mastering complex technical challenges, confident that her contribution to German engineering excellence within this stable European project was building not just products, but a secure life. Her professional pride was intertwined with the continent's success, a functional, integral part of its economic engine. Every day, Anna saw the tangible results of this stability: thriving industries, cutting-edge research, and a society that valued skilled labor. Her routine, meticulously organized, was a reflection of the orderly world around her. She expected her career trajectory, her pension, her children's opportunities, everything, to unfold within this predictable, meritocratic framework. This belief in the power of German engineering, amplified by the seamless European market, ensured a high quality of life. Yet, beneath this polished surface, this seemingly perfect machine, lay a subtle, unacknowledged fragility. The very foundations of this stability, built on untested assumptions about consensus and incremental change, were about to face challenges for which they were never truly designed. The seeds of future struggles were already sown, hidden in plain sight, waiting for the right moment to sprout. To grasp the unfolding reality, you must understand the pivotal decision that, while utterly rational and modern at its inception, subtly reshaped Europe's destiny. Leaders, deeply marked by devastating conflicts, prioritized peace and unity above all else. Their foundational choice was to forge an economic union that meticulously respected national sovereignty, especially in critical fiscal policy areas. This carefully considered approach ensured broad buy-in from diverse nations, preventing any single power from dominating the collective. It was a deliberate, almost sacred process designed to heal old wounds and weave together disparate interests through consensus-based decision-making. This seemed not just correct, but the only viable path, solidifying a fragile peace and establishing the bedrock for unprecedented cooperation. It was an unavoidable necessity, a modern paradigm for international relations, a long-term wager on collective harmony. Yet, within this seemingly brilliant and meticulously crafted design, a profound structural error was subtly embedded: the creation of a deeply integrated economic union without a commensurate political and fiscal union. This foundational flaw, a silent ticking clock, meant that critical policy levers for economic governance remained firmly subject to national vetoes and the lowest common denominator. While initially hailed as a stroke of genius, ensuring every nation felt heard, it inadvertently paralyzed the capacity for swift, decisive action. The very architecture designed to prevent rupture now actively resisted the speed and disruptive change a rapidly evolving world would soon demand. This wasn't a simple oversight, but a profound consequence of prioritizing peace and consensus at the expense of future agility. A trade-off whose true cost remained hidden beneath layers of collective prosperity. For decades, this intricate system masked its inherent limitations, its gears turning with reassuring precision. But the world refused to remain static. The 2008 global financial crisis, followed by the agonizing Eurozone debt crisis, served as the first seismic tremors. These were not isolated incidents. They were external shocks that brutally exposed the EU's design flaw. A system built for incrementalism, for slow, careful consensus, found itself utterly unprepared for the speed and magnitude of these challenges. The logic of its operation, once so dependable, began to falter precisely when decisive action was paramount. Europe, accustomed to a gentle, predictable pace, now faced a relentless torrent of demands for rapid adaptation. Capabilities its very architecture was designed to avoid, almost as a feature, not a bug. Anna, immersed in her work at the automotive supplier, initially saw these events as temporary headwinds, global market fluctuations that German engineering excellence and European stability would surely weather. She observed the news, read the economic analyses, but her belief in the system remained largely unshaken. Her projects, though facing new, complex regulatory hurdles and occasional supply chain jitters, still moved forward, driven by her team's unwavering dedication. Yet, a faint dissonance began to emerge. A promising new component design, critical for future competitiveness, faced unexpected delays due to a convoluted cross-border approval process. A younger colleague, equally brilliant, considered an offer from a burgeoning tech company in Silicon Valley, citing faster innovation cycles and less red tape. A subtle crack in the once unquestionable European promise. This slow, creeping realization, this growing chasm between expectation and reality, forces a critical question. What seemingly correct decisions, made with the best intentions, are shaping your world's future right now, perhaps planting seeds of unforeseen consequences? Take a moment to consider the foundational choices underpinning the systems you rely upon daily, the ones that promise stability and reward. Share your insights in the comments below. Your perspective enriches this vital global conversation about unseen forces. If you truly want to understand how these seemingly minor rational choices inevitably lead to profound, far-reaching consequences that ripple across generations, then subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell. We are here to unravel the complex, structural truths often hidden in plain sight, offering insights you simply won't find anywhere else, guiding you through the inevitable logic of history. The external pressures intensified, revealing the true nature of Europe's structural bottleneck. The consensus-driven model, once a strength, transformed into a critical impediment. As the world sprinted forward with rapid technological change and intense global competition, Europe's slow decision-making and regulatory complexity became a lead weight. Industries that once defined continental strength, like automotive and advanced manufacturing, found themselves struggling to forge new competitive advantages in emerging sectors. Innovation, once a given, lagged behind global competitors. The problem was no longer a series of isolated incidents. It was clearly structural, a fundamental design flaw preventing agile adaptation and proactive growth. The very engine of progress began to sputter. Anna, witnessing these shifts firsthand, felt a deepening frustration. The meticulous planning, the long hours, the engineering brilliance, It all seemed increasingly insufficient against a backdrop of rising energy costs and an ever-growing labyrinth of contradictory EU regulations. Her company, a pillar of German industry, now faced relentless global pressure, often feeling outmaneuvered by competitors from regions less burdened by internal friction. She saw younger, equally brilliant colleagues not just considering but actively emigrating to the US or Asia, seeking environments where innovation moved faster, where reward more directly followed effort. The predictable path she had always trusted, the one where dedication guaranteed a secure future, now felt fractured, its promise receding into an uncertain horizon. This was the first fracture, not a sudden break, but a silent, insidious erosion of trust and efficacy. The system, once an unshakable guarantee, now seemed inert, unresponsive to the collective efforts of millions like Anna. The gap between what Europe promised and what it could actually deliver began to widen, not due to individual failures, but because its very architecture was designed to avoid the speed and disruption now paramount for survival. The initial, rational decision to prioritize consensus had quietly become a self-defeating trap, leaving the continent increasingly vulnerable and its citizens questioning the future they had been implicitly promised. The bedrock of stability was slowly, imperceptibly, turning to sand. The external pressures intensified relentlessly, revealing the true, debilitating nature of Europe's structural bottleneck. The consensus-driven model, once lauded as its greatest strength, inexorably transformed into a critical impediment, a drag anchor holding back a fleet. As the global economy sprinted forward with breakneck technological change and fiercely intense global competition, Europe's slow, cumbersome decision-making and labyrinthine regulatory complexity became a lead weight, pulling it down. Industries that once defined continental strength, from automotive to advanced manufacturing, found themselves struggling desperately to forge new competitive advantages in emerging, high-growth sectors. Innovation, once a given, lagged dangerously behind global competitors. This was no longer a series of isolated incidents. It was clearly structural, a fundamental design flaw preventing agile adaptation and proactive growth. The very engine of European progress began to sputter, losing its once unrivaled momentum and leaving the continent exposed and vulnerable. Anna, witnessing these alarming shifts firsthand within her own company, felt a deepening, gnawing frustration. The meticulous planning, the long hours, the engineering brilliance she and her team poured into their work. It all seemed increasingly insufficient against a backdrop of relentlessly rising energy costs and an ever-growing labyrinth of contradictory EU regulations. Her company, a venerable pillar of German industry, now faced relentless global pressure, often feeling outmaneuvered by competitors from regions far less burdened by internal friction and bureaucratic hurdles. She saw younger, equally brilliant colleagues not just considering but actively emigrating to the US or Asia, seeking environments where innovation moved faster, where reward more directly followed effort. The predictable path she had always trusted, the one where dedication guaranteed a secure future, now felt fractured, its once clear promise receding into an uncertain, unsettling horizon. At the heart of this paralysis lies the European Union's institutional architecture itself. You see, the principle of unanimity, required for critical decisions, particularly in foreign policy, taxation, and certain aspects of social policy, grants any single member state a de facto veto power. This intricate legislative process, involving the Commission, Parliament, and Council, was meticulously designed for extensive deliberation and consensus building, a noble goal for preventing past conflicts. However, this very design, a mechanism built for careful integration, became a critical impediment when swift, disruptive action was needed. It ensures thoroughness and oversight, yes, but it inherently prioritizes procedure and established norms over innovative, rapid responses to existential threats, trapping the entire bloc in a perpetual state of slow motion. Adding another layer to this structural antagonism is the persistent prioritization of individual national interests and sovereignty over collective European solutions. When reforms demand short-term domestic political costs, the reluctance to cede further sovereignty acts as a constant, immovable brake on deeper integration. Consider the asymmetric costs of reform. Structural changes often impact different member states disproportionately, making true consensus nearly impossible. For instance, the financial burdens of the green transition, the complexities of fiscal harmonization, or the social adjustments required for labor market reforms are never evenly distributed. This leads to entrenched opposition from affected nations, creating a perpetual deadlock where the collective good is perpetually sacrificed at the altar of individual national agendas, a deeply ingrained pattern. Finally, the vast, often slow-moving administrative apparatus of the EU, while ensuring rigorous thoroughness and essential oversight, is inherently resistant to radical change. It prioritizes established norms and painstaking procedure over innovative, rapid responses, fostering a deep-seated bureaucratic inertia. Layered upon this internal resistance are Europe's growing external dependencies, its reliance on volatile external energy sources, critical raw materials, and increasingly key digital technologies and global supply chains. These vulnerabilities demand a unified, decisive strategy, but Europe's fragmented decision-making process struggles to address them with the speed and coherence required. This confluence of internal rigidity and external exposure creates a self-reinforcing loop, where the system itself actively works against its own capacity for survival. A tragic irony. If you are finding this relentless, granular deep dive into Europe's intricate structural challenges as crucial as we do, if this unsparing analysis of unseen forces is profoundly reshaping your understanding of the world's complex, interconnected mechanics, then pause for a moment and consider the sheer magnitude of other hidden truths that await beneath the surface of daily headlines. This narrative isn't just about Europe. It's a universal lesson about how even the most meticulously designed systems, those built with the noblest intentions for peace and prosperity, can paradoxically become their own undoing when external realities shift. We are here to unravel these profound structural patterns shaping our global future, one essential insight at a time, guiding you through the inevitable logic of history's unfolding narrative. Subscribe now and ring that notification bell. We reveal truths you simply won't find anywhere else. Anna, navigating this shifting landscape, felt the full weight of the structural betrayal, the meticulous planning, the long hours, the engineering brilliance she and her team poured into their work. It all seemed increasingly insufficient against a backdrop of relentless pressure. Her company, a pillar of German industry, struggled to adapt, its innovation lagging behind aggressive global competitors, stifled by a bureaucracy that prioritized procedure over progress. Jobs became less secure, wages stagnated, and the funding for essential public services faced increasing strain. This created a widening gap between the expected European standard of living and the emerging, harsher reality. Her own pension, once a certainty, now felt precarious, and her children faced a job market far more uncertain than her own, eroding her fundamental belief that merit guaranteed a future. This relentless erosion of confidence and capability, this gradual unmasking of systemic flaws, inevitably led to a pivotal yet tragically unfulfilled moment, the point of no return. You must understand that this wasn't a sudden, cataclysmic event, but rather the profound collective failure to make a truly decisive decision during a critical juncture. The agonizing Eurozone debt crisis of 2010-2012 presented Europe with its most fundamental contradiction: the stark reality of a monetary union without a robust fiscal and political union to support it. This was the precise moment when the EU was forced to confront the inherent design flaw, the silent ticking clock that had been embedded from its very inception. It was a clear crossroads, where one path promised true resilience, and the other a continued, inevitable descent into structural rigidity. What could have been done differently then? A decisive move towards true fiscal federalism, a comprehensive banking union, and a common economic policy with stronger enforceable mechanisms, allowing for rapid and coordinated investment and transfers across the entire bloc. Such a bold step would have forged a truly resilient economic union, capable of proactive rather than reactive crisis management. However, this was not done. National governments, particularly creditor nations, prioritized their immediate domestic political stability and fiscal prudence, fearing moral hazard and an unacceptable loss of sovereignty. Simultaneously, debtor nations resisted the imposed austerity. The inherent structural design, with its veto points and national interests, prevented any radical, unified shift towards deeper integration, cementing the foundational flaw. The cost of that opportunity lost was immense, immeasurable. From that pivotal moment, the European Union became irrevocably locked into a pattern of managing crises through incremental, often insufficient measures, always a step behind the accelerating global challenges. The options for genuine, transformative structural reform were increasingly narrowed, not by external forces, but by the very foundational design that was reaffirmed, not fundamentally challenged. This was the apex of the structural predicament, the moment when the crisis became irreversible, morphing from a series of solvable problems into an inherent, unshakable state. The path ahead, once filled with multiple possibilities, now stretched out as a singular, unavoidable trajectory, dictated by the past. The path ahead, once filled with multiple possibilities, now stretches out as a singular, unavoidable trajectory, dictated by the past. If this course continues, you must brace for a future where entire generations face profoundly diminished economic prospects. Imagine your children, or their children, navigating a landscape of lower social mobility, where the ladders of opportunity are fewer and harder to climb. Precarity will become the norm, not the exception, breeding escalating intergenerational conflict over dwindling resources and mounting debt. Europe risks creating a lost generation, their potential for innovation and growth stifled, their ambitions unfulfilled, not by individual failing, but by a system unable to adapt. This isn't a speculative dystopia. It is the logical outcome of choices already made, a future where the promise of prosperity fades into a distant memory. replaced by a quiet struggle for basic security. Beyond its borders, Europe's standing on the global stage will irrevocably transform. You will witness its once commanding role as a geopolitical and economic powerhouse diminish, slowly but surely. From a confident rulemaker, shaping international norms and agreements, it will devolve into a mere rule-taker, reacting to decisions made elsewhere, its voice in critical international forums weakening considerably. The continent will experience a significant, painful loss of relevance, struggling desperately to lead on vital global issues like climate change, the ethical governance of digital technologies, or the rapid advancement of artificial intelligence. Its internal squabbles and the perpetual paralysis of slow decision-making will consume its energy and resources, leaving little capacity for external leadership. This decline is not an external plot. It